So I want to talk about how I made over $800,000 on my first apartment complex that I purchased. So this apartment complex made me $800,000 in equity and now cash flow positive $8,000 a month. And this took me about 2.5 years to stabilize from start to finish. So let's dive into it. So for those of you who've been following my story, you know I bought a 26-unit apartment complex in Oklahoma City. I got this using my direct mailing campaign where I sent out a bunch of letters, and I would send out 300 letters a month. And this guy called me, or not called me, but he sent me an email. So he was an attorney. He sent me an email saying, "Hey, Stephen, or Dr. Nguyen, because I use my doctor title. I got your letter. I'm interested in selling my 26-unit apartment complex. Let me know what questions you have about it." So I actually tried to ask them a couple questions. Said, "Hey, I think it'd be easier if we talked on the phone," but he just said, "I just want to keep all communication via email because I want things documented and written." And he's an attorney, right? So this is very common. And there's a common saying, say it and forget it, write it and regret it, right? So you want everything documented, everything written. And for me, I want to do things that person is comfortable with. Like, I can communicate anyway. I can talk on the phone, I can text, I can email. Whatever they want to do, I will appease, right? Because I want to make it work. I want to make it a win-win situation. I want to get my first deal. So I asked them, all right, hey, like, can you send me a rent roll, and a P&L and potentially some tax returns if possible? And he said that, okay, here's my rent roll. I don't feel comfortable giving you my tax return because there's a lot of personal information, but I'm happy to break down my Schedule E, which has the real estate, and he just typed that out on Word document for the past 3 years. So basically, he gave me the gross income, he gave me the gross expense, and he gave me the property tax and the insurance, and then what the net operating income was, right? So this is where commercial real estate gets tricky, right? Because I mean, he just gave me a Word document, and you have to trust that these numbers are accurate, right? Like, they can completely lie about things on the rent roll, they can lie about things on the P&L, but this is why you need to do real estate with a mentor or someone more experienced with you, so that you can try to mitigate these pitfalls. But just know that despite having all the education, all the mentorship, you still can fall into these traps, right? Because it's easy to fabricate documents. It's easy to even show bank statements that you fabricate, right? Like, some people can just deposit money from one bank account to the business bank account and say that's the rent, but in reality, they're not collecting any rent, right? So that's why you have to buy deals that have so much margin that you can't lose money either way, and that's what I did, right? So, I saw his P&L, and pretty much it matched the rent roll, right? He said he was getting around $9,000 a month, or about $9,000 to $10,000 a month, and his P&L had about $120,000. His expense ratio was around 50%, 55%, and that was reasonable, and he was self-managing the property. So I kind of knew that, if I include property management, I'd be a little bit higher than that. And then the insurance, his was a little bit cheaper, so mine was going to be higher, and the property taxes didn't go up for me. So, I basically knew all these things would go up over time and would go up, once I bought it. So, the expense ratio kind of checked out. Sent the information to my lender, and at the time I was using a broker because I didn't have Bank of the West yet, but he ended up taking me a Bank of the West. But pretty much, they asked for, what's your rent roll? Can I get the last 2 years of P&Ls and a year to date for this year? And then from there, they'll underwrite the deal. So from there, underwrote the deal, and they usually ask you, what's your offer price? And I said, well, I don't know yet, but in my mind, I'm like, well, I want to underwrite this deal where it's my highest price. That would make sense for the lender. So the lender, we went back and forth, and we basically came down to about a purchase price of about $700,000. And how you find out the offer price is easy, right? So you could do the net operating income divided by the market cap rate, right? So to find the net operating income, you take the gross rents minus the gross expense, and then whatever that is, that's the net operating income, and you divide it by the market cap rate, which was an 8 cap in Oklahoma City, right? So, for example, you could take, I'll just make it very simple. Let's say you have $120,000 in income, 60K was expense, your net operating income is 60K, and then let's say your cap rate is 10%, then your offer price for the value is going to be $600,000, right? So for me, I had an 8 cap market, and then based on net operating income, I came out to around 750K. And then to validate that, what you do is, okay, you ask the lender, okay, I'm going to do 25% down on the property. So I have a 75% loan. My interest rate was around 4.25%, and it was amortized over 30 years. And what's the debt service coverage ratio that the lender wants? So my lender wanted 1.25 debt service coverage ratio. So if, for example, my monthly loan payment was $1,900, or let's say $2,000, then you want to make sure you have a 25% margin in net operating income over that. So if my income was, my monthly, I think my monthly mortgage was $2,000 a month, then 25% above that would be an additional, what is that? That's an additional $500, right? So they want to make sure that my net operating income was at least $2,500, right? And if you look at my deal, so they want the net operating income minimally needs to be $2,500 in order to meet the lender's requirement. So if you break down the numbers, I was getting around $9,000 a month. Half went to expenses, so that's $4,500. So I had $4,500 NOI, roughly, maybe about $4,000 NOI, roughly, and they wanted $2,500. So I knew the deal would pencil out. And just ask your lender. They do something called a stress test when underwriting a deal. So what a stress test means is that even though your loan term might be 4.25%, they're going to underwrite the deal at 5% to be more conservative, and the amortization is going to be those 30 years, but they underwrote it at 25, right? So if you have a lower amortization schedule, so from 30 to 25, your monthly payments will be higher. If your interest rate goes from 4% to 5%, your monthly payments will be higher. So they increased it double, 2 ways. Number one is they increased the interest rate and they decreased the amortization, so your monthly payment's higher, and they still want 25% margin over that, right? So you have to talk to your underwriter, like, how are you stress testing this deal, so you can do the math with them, right? And then at that point, okay, so I came to my max price of around $700,000. Now I want to buy a good deal. Like, what offer do I want to make? And for me, it ended up being tax assessed price, and I offered tax assessed price, and to my surprise, the tax assessed price was $520,000, and I made that offer. And when you make that lower offer, and at least in your mind, be able to back it up, right? So if he said, no, Steven, that's too low, then I would say, well, I made this offer based off of the tax assessed price. You get your tax return every year. That's how I made my offer, and he probably knew what his tax return was. So, but to my surprise, he didn't counter. He just accepted it. I was like, oh, I was prepared to defend my offer, but then go a little more, right? So I'm like, all right, well, I offer you $520K based on tax assessed price. How about I give you, 10% more at $570? Would you make the deal happen? And I already knew my top price was around $700,000, right? So he agreed to it. I bought it, got under contract. I drafted up an LOI, letter of intent. Basically he signed it. So LOI is non-binding. So if you join my mentorship, you join my course, I have a template for the LOI. It's a pretty simple one-pager that delineates the terms, like what's the purchase price, what's your down payment, what's your loan, what's the due diligence period, what's your closing window, what's the security or earnest money deposit. It just lists all these terms, like how do you split the fees, all that stuff, right? So to submit the LOI, he signed it, and then he drafted the purchase and sale agreement because he's a broker, but Oklahoma has standard templates for the purchase and sale agreement, so you can really Google Oklahoma purchase and sale agreement or whatever you're investing at, Texas purchase and sale agreement, and you can find these standard templates. So after doing that, basically he chose the escrow or title company that he wanted to use. So he used First American, which is nationwide, and he had one in Oklahoma. I always tell, just choose whatever title company the seller wants to use to make them happy. So they used First American. They're big. I was happy with it. So basically sent all documents there. I then got the wiring instruction. I wired my earnest money deposit, and I communicated that to the seller. And then I started my due diligence period and said, all right, well, I want to do a full property inspection on this day. Are you able to be at the property and open all the units for me and notify your tenants, right? So he said, all right, I'm gonna notify tenants, and he was there. So on inspection day, I was there, property manager was there, general contractor was there, he was there, and then we would do the full inspection on it. And upon inspection, realized that I probably need around $5,000 to $10,000 per unit to renovate. If it was a full turn, about 10,000 ish, and then if it's a moderate turns, about 5,000. On average. So on average, I'd probably say around 10 to 12K per door to make it brand new. But I knew that after renovation, I could raise the rents from about $350 all the way up to around $700 to $750 to $800, which is what I'm getting today. So if you look at the deal, if the value of my 26 unit apartment complex at half the rents of $350 is worth $750K, right? If I double the rents after putting a renovation, right, to $700 on average, well, if I double my rents, I double my net operating income. My market cap rate stays the same. I just doubled the value of my apartment complex. And that's how I made $800,000 on my first 26 unit apartment complex, right? So it was worth $750K. I doubled the rents. So now it is worth double. So around 1.5, actually $1.6 million, right? So let's backtrack this. I bought it for $500,000. I put in $300,000 to renovate. I'm all in for $800,000. Now it's worth $1.6 million. So that's $800,000 of equity. And fast forward to today, I gross around $18K a month, right, in gross rental income. My expense hovers monthly between $8,000 to $10,000 a month, including my loan, right? So if I have $10,000 in expense that month because maybe I had more repairs, then I made $8,000 net. But some months had less repairs and maintenance. My expense was $8,000, right? So I'd net $10,000 a month. Because if you think about it, I renovated most of my units, so I'm not gonna have much repairs, much capex, because I just renovate everything, right? And I'm 100% full, so it's just whatever breaks here and there. So I might be making a little more, but if you do a breakdown, my loan payment's around $2,000. My property managers, I pay around 8%, I think 7%, roughly. The water bill is around $1,200. My property tax is around $600. Insurance is around $1,500, right? And then my common area utilities is maybe, for the common areas, maybe about $100-200, and the trash is around a couple hundred. So if you kind of do this math, like, that's why I have so much margin in my deals. I'm grossing, remember, $18,000 on this deal. I'm making good margin on this deal. So not only did I make $800,000 in equity, I'm now cash flowing between $8,000 to $10,000 a month in just one apartment complex. That's enough to replace my W-2 income, but I'm still working, right? Because I want to build up my emergency reserve and take care of some other things before I retire from my W-2. But this is the power of one deal, right? So I made $800,000 in just equity. It's not including the $10,000 I'm netting per month, which is $120,000 a year, and this is tax-free, right? So this is how the deal gets crazy. This is how the deal gets insane. So hopefully this video inspired you to buy your first apartment complex. If you want to buy an apartment complex without partners, while working full-time, just like me, you should consider joining my mentorship program. I can help you get there, and find a deal, and just know that it just takes one deal to change your life, right? And if you found value in this video, let me know if you have any comments or questions down below. I'd love to answer them. And please share this video for somebody who is looking to buy their first apartment complex. And hopefully you found value from this video. Hope you see you in the next one. Thank you so much.